Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Scott Thompson, and we are here for another Stock Investing for Beginners webcast. Excited to be here with you today. Give a shout out to Scott Luck and uh, Simone and Jay Richardson and everybody in the chat there. Hello to Cameron May, who's going to be helping me in the chat there. If you have some questions, feel free to post those questions in the chat, and Cameron will get to those. And I always like to go through that chat too, and I'll review those questions and often post the questions in the webcast recording. So this will be recorded. Should be able to access it within the few hours after we finish today. Great to be here with you again. If you've been with me the last few weeks, then you should be comfortable or know how to do what we're going to do is scanning for the buy signals in the strongest sectors. If you're brand new, and I know we have a lot of new people today, but if you're brand new, what we've been doing over the last few weeks is introducing some tools to help speed up the investing process, help make some buying decisions and things like that, that just helps that new investor go through that. And so I want to show you some of those different things that we've done. We're going to take some time today to monitor some open positions, but the majority of what our time is going to be is looking how to scan or search for those stocks with to have buy signals, and we'll expand on that as we go. But before we get started, if you are open to following Cameron and myself on x.com, Scott's at Scott Thompson CS or Cameron May CS. Love to have you follow us. If you're new and haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. It gives you a chance to support us and getting this information out to more and more people. And again, welcome to all those that are new. This information that we're going over today is for general informational and educational purposes only, not a recommendation of any particular investment or investment strategy, which we will be going over a particular strategy today that we've introduced several months ago. We're going to be using the paper money platform or a demo account, which is a little bit different than your live thinkorswim paper money account will be. There's some differences associated with that, so be aware of that. We'll be talking about stop orders when we place our trades, our example trades today. There's no guarantee that the stop order will be filled at or near the stop price. We'll also be talking about Schwab stock slices very, very briefly today to give you a way. One of the objectives of this Stock Investing for Beginners webcast is to help people get started. And you can get started with as little as $5, which is really cool. So we'll show you that in a minute. But want to go through and remind everybody that investing involves risk, including the loss of principal, no past performance, no guarantee of future success, and give you a highlight of what we're doing in this Stock Investing for Beginners series. Is we have 8 different lessons. Now, we finished these 8 lessons a little while ago, so if you're just joining me today, you kind of joined the TV show about mid-season. So sometimes you have to go back and binge watch a few of those episodes to get caught up. Well, we're kind of in the managing the portfolio. Section 8 is where we've been focusing the last few weeks, but we started off with why investing. And one of the biggest assets that you have is that time in the market. This course is designed hopefully for those coming out of high school or coming out of college that maybe don't have a lot of money to get started. And we built that process of why should someone invest, and the easy answer is you get to participate in the growth of a company. You may have seen some of those headlines. Of course, no guarantees there, but they give you that if you invested $1,000 in X a certain company, where that would be today. And that's why we invest, to participate in that growth. We'll go through just real briefly, show you that Schwab stock slices and show you how to get started today. But again, the majority of our time is going to be spending on managing the portfolio. So let's jump in first and let me show you where those lessons are. I've put a bunch of links in the chat already. They're also in the description. But if you go to our YouTube page called Trader Talk Schwab Coaching Webcasts, maybe Cameron can chat in the link there for our, how to get there. But those 8 lessons that we just taught are down here on the stock investing basics. And so you can just start lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3, and so on. If you click on that playlist, this is what it will look like. It's just these videos here that we've done. And then what I like to do too, I mentioned there, if you have some questions in the chat, Cameron will get to those, but what I like to do is I'll take some questions from the live session and then I'll just post them here in the YouTube comments to go over those, reinforce those questions, and help answer those questions that maybe Cameron and I can't get to during the live session. So again, that's on our Trader Talks page, home page. Go down to Stock Investing Basics and you'll see those 8 lessons there. So very first thing I want to do is like, how do you get started? Well, you can go to the schwab.com page and just before you even have an account, just right here, you can click on one of these here to open an account with Schwab. And then once you do that, you can go over here to the account and products and go to thinkorswim trading platforms. And you're going to want to download that platform. So, after you get the account set up, you can click this button here to log in to download. And when you do that, when you click on the icon, it'll come up with this little thinkorswim login page. You just use your Schwab credentials to get logged in. Down here at the bottom, you'll notice it says live trading, and that will usually have a little blue icon. If you click that over here on paper money, it usually changes it to this kind of brownish color. And so you want to be sure that you know where you are. And when you're in the paper money, it'll actually put PM in the top left corner. But I wanted to show you kind of how to log in, how to get started. And then, once you do log in, let me go ahead and log in here. And I want to show you that the Schwab stock slices, because you can get started investing with $5. So if you go over here to the trade, go down here to Schwab stock slices. And then right here, this is just really, really cool. I was excited when I saw this. And then just a shout out, Schwab is going to be expanding their automated investing and their ability to, invest in fractional shares. So that's coming this over the next few quarters, but here it is. There's a minimum of $5 per stock, and you can invest in these 30 different stocks or up to 30 different stocks in the S&P 500 at once. And so if you go to lesson 2 that we just kind of showed you, you'll see some more details on how to do that with Schwab stock slices. And what we've been doing in our paper money is kind of simulating that. So let me show you a little bit what that looks like here. We've been doing these fractional shares in the top 10 holdings of the S&P 500, and you can see our quantity. We don't even own a share. We've been doing $5 a week in these top 10, and we've been doing this for several weeks and months now. And, we can see that up and down today, but this is what that looks like. We've been forcing that into thinkorswim to show how to do that. And if you have some questions, you can post that in the YouTube comments for later. All right. Well, the very first thing I said that we'll do today is kind of monitor our open positions. And again, if you've been here the last few weeks, you've seen how I've incorporated these tools. I will show you how to add these tools to our thinkorswim platform. So you can do it today. You'll know how to do this as well. But one of the cool things about this particular tool, this column right here says above 50. You can't see the whole thing, but it's above the 50 SMA. Now, if we go back to the theme for this webcast, we need to remember that we're scanning for buy signals in the strongest sectors. Now, that assumes quite a few things. Number one, what buy signal? So we have to have a buy signal that we're looking for. And then we also have to say, well, what makes a sector strongest, right? And so over the last few months, we've been going through how to find that. And the sell signal first for monitoring our open positions is when the stock closes below the moving average. And we only have one stock in our portfolio that's gone down below that 50-period moving average. And so this one's called MS. Morgan Stanley. If we go to our charts here, we can see that we got a red arrow about a week ago. It closed below the moving average, went back up, and it got another red arrow there. Now, this chart I've also put in the chat, and it's in the description that you can load this there. And I will show you how to load these scripts into your thinkorswim here in just a moment. But what I wanted to do is, because I said I would monitor our open positions, this is the only one we have anything to do with. It gave a red arrow yesterday, and the rule is to put the stop 3% below that low price that day. And so on that particular day, They're pretty similar, but our current stop is here at 168.80, and the rule suggested lowering the stop to 3% below those lows, which is actually below where our current stop is. So the rule of thumb is once we move a stop up, we don't lower it back down. So there's really nothing else to do here. We've already had the stop in place at 168.80, and right now our job is just let that happen. Okay, so I've done part one of what I said we would do in the description, which is monitor our open positions. Now what I want to do is to, again, let's start at that high level and determine, how can we scan for buy signals in the strongest sectors. And the very first part of identifying which sectors are strongest is being able to identify what's going on in the market right now. Now, again, if you've been with me the last few weeks, you should know how to do this. If you've been practicing this over the last couple of weeks, you should start to feel comfortable doing it. And if you're brand new, then this will be a treat for you, and it's you'll be excited. So very first thing, I want to come down here. I'm going to scroll down. I've got this in my scratch pad over here, is we're doing what's called top-down analysis. And so the very first thing I want to help you guys do is load up what I call a long-term, intermediate term, and short-term grid chart to help us identify 3 different market time frames: long-term, intermediate term, and short-term. And once you have the link, now this link again is available in the chat. It's also available in the description below. But if you copy that, so I'm going to do a Control-C to copy that in here, then you're going to go up over here to Setup, Application Settings. Oops, not that one. Go up to Setup and Open Shared Item, and then you're just going to copy and paste that URL here in the box. Click Preview, and I've given it this name. So this name, you can keep that name, or you could change it if you want to. But once you do that and you click Import, then it will be in your thinkorswim. Now the hard part is finding it. So let me show you where it is. So if you go over here to the charts, that particular script brings up a grid chart, and that's over here at the top left. And if you click on that, it should have that name here. Okay, long-term, intermediate term, short-term, trend 3 charts, or whatever the name is that you have. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and it loads up these 3 charts with the styles and these moving averages and everything that's there automatically. So I'm going to right click on the first one and maximize that cell. And so this is the process now when you're doing a top-down analysis, and you can do this on the markets, you can do this on any stock. It's kind of a cool way. It's a very fast way. It's how I learned how to identify the market trends very, very quickly. And so what we want to do first is take a look at the long-term trend. Now, this isn't the only way to do this market analysis. It's just the way that I've been showing the last few weeks. I find it fairly simple and pretty useful. So long-term. On the long-term chart, we're looking at a 3-year weekly chart, and we have a 10-period exponential moving average and a 40-period exponential moving average. And those are very similar to like a 50-day moving average and a 200-day moving average, which, most everyone's familiar with. But this is really simple. If the 10-period moving average is above the 40, we're gonna say we're long-term bullish. And if the 10-period moving average is below the 40, we'd be long-term bearish. So you guys help me out here. Let me know if the trend, are we bullish long-term or bearish long-term? What's the trend? Right, this is bullish because the 10's above the 40. Now, the cool part about this script that Cameron just chatted in there and I chatted in earlier at the session, top of the chat, is you just click this arrow, and now you can go to your intermediate posture or your intermediate analysis of the S&P 500 in this case. And this is the rule set that I learned, okay? Again, not the only way to do it, but if the 30 period, now this is a simple moving average on a daily chart, if the 30-period moving average is rising, like it was over here in December and early January, then we would say our posture is bullish. If the moving average kind of oscillates back and forth or is up and down, up and down, up and down, then we would say that we're intermediate neutral. And if the moving average is falling, which it did fall a little bit over here, but That didn't last very long. But if the moving average is falling, then we would say we're intermediate bearish. Now, another characteristic to look at here is a couple things. If the moving averages are crossing back and forth like we see over here, that's an indication of usually an intermediate neutral or intermediate sideways market. If you see some similar highs or similar lows, that's another indication of that sideways type of movement. And what does that really mean, though? If the market's kind of neutral, usually what that means is we start getting a little frustrated with what's going on in our portfolio because it's just not moving very much. It's up a day, down a day, up a day, down a day, up a day. All right. But let's go ahead and identify what our intermediate posture is. What would you say that is? Intermediate posture, everybody. What would you say? I'd say neutral. Then last week we talked about to get out of neutral. Like this is, and again, this is just my personal way to get out of neutral. Some traders will do this differently, but I'm going to probably be this intermediate neutral until we break resistance and then retest that resistance as the new support and start trending up again. So it takes a little time to get out of this neutrality type of situation. All right. So long-term bullish, intermediate neutral, short-term. Now click the arrow for the next chart. And the short-term, this is a really cool tool. Again, it's part of this grid, script that Cameron chatted in there. But do you see the red and green arrows on this? This is indicating short-term highs and lows in the trend. And the way this works in the short term is we're just trying to see a series of higher highs and higher lows, or a series of lower highs and lower lows. And then if there's a break in that pattern, if it's like a high and then a low, but then a lower high and a higher low and all this back and forth, that's going to be kind of indicating that the trend is changing. And so, back here in November through about January, we could kind of argue it's like, yeah, those arrows are getting higher and the green arrows are getting higher. That's a series of higher highs and higher lows. But back here in about mid-January, you noticed we started doing some similar highs and similar lows, back and forth, back and forth. And so, the short-term posture in the S&P 500, at least, in some traders' opinions, is going to be neutral. All right. So this is our start of our top-down analysis, is looking for, these different time frames. All right. Now, I noticed there is a survey in the chat. You can click on that link. It's a really quick survey. Just ask, what you liked about the session. There's some questions about what you'd like to see in the future. I read through all of those comments. Love to hear your feedback on, what was helpful for you. What are some of your struggles? Let me know those, and I can address those in future webcasts. But take a moment and fill that survey out when we're done today, and that'd be fantastic. All right. Now that we've done our top-down analysis, we can go back to our main theme, okay? Scanning for what? Buy signals where? In the strongest sectors. So we've identified what the S&P 500 is doing, and we created a tool a few weeks ago, and this is what I call the 3-month percent change. Now, this is a column header, and so this is important. Let's go ahead and show how to copy these in here again, right? So here's our script, or our URL. We're going to copy that. Where do we go? Well, we go up here to setup, then where? Open shared items. And then we're just going to paste this in here, click preview. And this is the name that I chose for this. You can name it whatever you want and put that here. But 3-month percent change. What this does is it gives us a column, and I'll show you how to find that column here in just a second. But you'll add a column to your kind of watch list page, and then you can compare how that particular stock or sector in this case is doing compared to the S&P 500. Okay, so after you've done that, click import, and now it's going to be in thinkorswim. But again, how do you find it? Well, let me show you where it's going to be. Okay, cancel this. Now, on the watch list over here, I'm going to open this up. Let me drag that up a little bit. There is a watch list called sector indices right here. Okay, now this is a public watch list that's available to you, and so you can pull up this watch list and add the column, which I'll show you in a minute. But what I did is I took these symbols, and I think there's 11 of them, and I added into my own personal watch list the SPX, because you can't modify these public watch lists. And so that's what I've got right here, is I've got this personal watch list of sector indices where I added the S&P 500. Okay, let me detach this here so we can get a little bit bigger picture of it. And your default's not going to have this here. So how do we add these things that you'll need? Okay, go to the gear, click on the little gear over here, and customize. And on the right side are the different column headers that you have. And on the left are all the different ones you can use. But if you scroll down, you can see it's right here. So whatever you named it, if it's 3-month percent change, you click on that, click add, and it'll put it on top there. I also have the description instead of just the symbol. So again, if you type in DC or description, start typing that out, you'll get description over here. And I like to have the symbol, the description, 3-month percent change, and then I'd get rid of everything else. The bid, ask, high, lows, whatever else you have there. So for this purpose, it's just we're having one column. Okay. So now that we've got that, here's kind of the fun part, is I can sort by that column header. So your default's probably going to be, your symbols and then the SPX if you've added that to your watch list. And you come over here and now we have 3-month percent change. I'm going to click on that once and it'll go from low to high. Click on it again and now it's from high to low. And again, our theme or our main purpose today is to do what? Scan for buy signals where? In the strongest sectors. So which sectors are outperforming the S&P 500? That's what when we say strongest sectors, we're trying to identify the top 3 sectors in the last 3 months. And you can see that we have energy, materials, and consumer staples. Okay, so I'm going to write those down over here partly so I don't forget them. Okay, energy, materials, and consumer staples. Okay, those are our outperforming or the strongest sectors right now. All right, now here's the fun part. Those of you that have been here the last few weeks, we've been, kind of tweaking the scan a little bit. This week, I tweaked it up even again, so this is working much better. Now, let me give you a little disclosure here, is when you're doing a scan, okay, and we have our 2 green arrows scan for sectors, this is the URL, okay? I'm going to copy that. Now, when you're doing a scan that has a study attached to it, which this one does, it only works in the live or real money side of your thinkorswim platform. So you can see up here at the top left, I have that PM for paper money simulated trading. I also have my live account, this demo account open, and it's in black just so it's a little different. But this one allows us to have some studies attached to our scan. So if I go into my live thinkorswim and I've already copied that URL, I can go up here, open shared item like we've done, do a Control V like Victor to paste it in there, click preview, and this will, the name I gave it there and shared with you was 2 green arrows scan for sectors. And again, you can name it whatever you want, okay? And so if I import this, it'll be inside my thinkorswim. Okay, great. Where is it though? Well, let me show you. So once you've loaded that in, if you come over here to this little hamburger drop-down menu and you go load scan query and go to personal, there's your 2 green arrows scan for sectors. I'm going to click on that. And these are the components. Now, again, if you've been here the last few weeks, this one's going to be a little bit different. So go ahead and update yours because I figured out how to do the script a little bit more efficiently for us. All right. Now, I know there's some questions coming through. Cameron's doing a great job of taking a look at those. I will get to some of those if I can. I will definitely go back and answer them all in the YouTube comments. But these are the components, okay? We're looking for stocks first that are between about $20 and about $300. Why that? Well, because we're playing with a $10,000 portfolio. It's a smaller portfolio. Stock volume in this particular scan, we're looking for 500,000 shares. That just means it's a lot of liquidity. We're looking for a stock. Now, here's the study components, and this is now the buy signal. All right. The MACD histogram has to be green. All right. And we want the stock to be above the moving average. Now, coming back around to our topic, scanning for buy signals. Now, again, if you've been here for several weeks, you know what this is, but if you're brand new today, again, thanks for being here, number one. The buy signal we're looking for is for an uptrending stock to be above a rising 50-period moving average, and then that MACD histogram is a momentum indicator indicating that we're trying to catch the momentum within about 1 to 5 days of giving that buy signal. And that's what this crosses above zero within 5 bars will do for us. All right. Now, the only thing you really have to check for is if that moving average is rising or not, because sometimes you'll get that essentially the signal, but the moving average is kind of flat, and that's not what we're looking for. Okay. So what was our first sector? Do you guys remember? What's our first sector that we said was outperforming? Okay. Well, I'm going to go back over to our paper money because I wrote it down. Energy. So let's go to this is again our live demo account, because this is the only place the studies work, and we're going to put in energy. So to put energy up here, scan in energy, which is already there as the default, but if it wasn't there set at energy, this is how you set it. Energy, and we're going to select all energy. So that'll say scan in energy. And then we also want to intersect. Now, our general rule has been to look at the S&P 100. And this is what I would call quick fundamental analysis. We're saying, hey, these stocks are in the S&P 100. These are the biggest 100 stocks in the U.S. market. They're probably okay or good companies fundamentally. Now, you might have some different definitions of that, and we've talked a little bit about that in that lesson number 5, which was what to buy and how to do some fundamental analysis. But this is just, again, for new investors, this is an easy way to look for good companies in the energy sector. And so once I've done that, I'm just going to click scan, and we'll see what results come up. Okay, no matching signals. Now, why is that? Well, because we've got a pretty limited scan right here, intersect with S&P 100. So if you're getting no signals on the 100, we have talked about this last few weeks, moving this out to the S&P 500 and then running the scan there. And this, when we run the scan, we have 3 stocks in the energy sector that have met these criteria. Now, let me show you one last thing over here. You'll notice here that I have some columns. Days MACD green and above the 50 SMA. Now, what does this tell us? Well, this says 1 day ago we got a green arrow on the MACD. 1 day ago on BKR we got a green arrow on the MACD. And 2 days ago we got a green arrow on the MWB, which is kind of cool. All right. Now, how do I get these columns? Well, again, I've added this script into the chat. It's also in the description. And how do you do that? Well, let me just quickly again show you. Here's those scripts. You copy it. Where do you go from there? Set up, open shared item, copy it in here, just like we've done a number of different times. And then when you're on that page, after you've loaded those in, you click on this little gear. It's kind of hard to see, but click on the little gear, click customize, and then you just go find those things that you've saved above the 50 SMA or MA, and then the other one's MACD, day MACD green. Okay. And then you can just add those like I've done over here. All right. So let's do this. Let's write these symbols down: BKR, EQT, and WMB in energy. Okay. I've got those written down. And now let's run what's the other sector? What was the other sector that was outperforming? We had energy. What was the other one? You guys remember? So materials. I think materials was the next one. So we click materials, select all materials, and then we're going to click scan. Okay. So materials, we have 5 symbols. So write these down: CF, CRH, IFF, MOS, and SW. Okay. Now again, there's no guarantee these even have a buy signal. They just meet the criteria. We're going to have to do one step and evaluate them, and we'll take a look. I don't think we'll have time to get to all of these, but I wanted to have you write these symbols down so for homework you guys can go back and do what I'm doing here in just a minute. Okay, so CF, CRH, IFF, MOS, and SW. All right. Now where's the other one? Where's the other sector? Okay, down here, go to industry. Was it consumer staples? And then we can click all sector or all consumer staples. We click scan. And here we have 2, PM, write these down, PM and STZ. These are the stocks that came up in the scan. No guarantee that are buy signals. And even if they are buy signals, no guarantee they're going to make us any money. Okay. Now, this is an interesting one. STZ, based on the rules, probably shouldn't come up. Why? Well, because the MACD is showing red right now. So why would it come up in the search? This is just a little nuance of the search here. It says crosses above 0 within 5 bars. Do you guys see that? So, you know, as it could have given a green arrow or gone above 0 a couple days ago, and then today it's back down, which is what it looks like. But jot that symbol down, and we can take a look at these together. And again, if you've joined a little bit later and you didn't see that survey link that Cameron just reposted, that, love to get your feedback on what you find exciting here. What are your struggles with your investing and challenges that you run into? And I'll take a look at those. And sometimes I'll even answer, I'll say, you know, question from the survey, and I'll put that in the YouTube comments as well. All right, so let's do the fun stuff now. Let's go take a look at our chart. We're going to go back over to our paper money and get out of the live money. And here we're going to go in, and very first thing I'm going to do is go back from my grid chart. I'm going to click on this and go down to what I call single. And this is just our study set. Now, again, this link is available. I've shown you how to load these scans or scripts into the thinkorswim multiple times today. There's one called the 2 green arrows with a 1% moving average envelope. That's what this one is. And let's just take a look at the stocks. Let's start off with the energy. So you guys chat in. Which energy stock do you want to look at first? I think we had, 3 of them? There were 3 energy stocks. Okay. Let's see. I think the first one, we'll just put BKR, I think was one of them. And what we're doing here, now I'm going to zoom in. I'm on a 6-month chart. Let me go down to a 3-month chart here. And this is, once I learned this, I was so excited at how easy this is, because I used to spend, literally 15, 20 minutes on one chart looking at it and trying to decide what to do with it. And this is really easy. Okay. I'm going to go back one day, and all we're doing, everyone, all we're doing here is we're looking at the right side of the chart and we're asking a few questions. Number 1, is the green line, the moving average, is that rising? Okay, in this case on BKR, it's rising. The next question I would say is the price above the moving average? Yep. So that means it's a green arrow. Okay, now what causes a green arrow to appear on the moving average is when the stock actually goes above the moving average. So do you see right there? So back here on the 5th of January, the stock crossed above the moving average, and there's a green arrow. And that green arrow is green until it turns red. Remember that. Okay, so let's zoom in again yesterday. So is the moving average rising? Check. Is the price above the moving average? Check. Is the MACD green? Well, we're looking there on the right side of the chart. Looks like we just got a red arrow on the MACD. So guess what? If this was yesterday, we'd be done with our analysis. We don't have any further to go. We don't have to question. We don't have to ask. We just done. Okay, here's today. Is the moving average rising? Yep. Is the stock price above the moving average? Yep. Is the MACD green? Yep. Guess what? This is a valid buy signal. So what do? Well, for our examples, we're going to try to paper trade as many of these as we can. Okay, now we have some set rules. Again, if you go back and watch lesson series 1 through 8, we're investing up to $500 in a particular trade. We tried not to risk more than about $50 per position. Sorry, because we have a $10,000 account, and that's about 0.5% of that account. But this is really fun. Check this out. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out here. How do I buy this stock? Well, I need a couple things. Let me shrink this down. That purplish dotted line is where my stop order is going to go. So write down 5034. We just need to remember that number. We're going to right click about there at the close. We're going to do a buy custom with stop. It's going to create an order for us to buy at that wherever our cursor was. We're going to adjust that to the closing price, which in this case is $61.25. We're going to set our stop at 5034. Okay, so in right here, we're risking about $11 per share because it's so far above that moving average. So in this case, we could probably go with, you know, if we don't want to risk more than 50 bucks, like if we got stopped out, we want our loss to be $50 or less. We probably need to go in there with what? 8 shares? No, 4 or 5 shares, 4 shares. Because 4 times 11 is 44, 5 times 11 be 55, right? So we can go in there with 4 shares, and we've met our parameters, not invest more than 500 and not risk on our individual trade more than the $50, which is 0.5% of our $10,000 portfolio. All right. So we're going to send this order off. We want to make our stop order good till canceled. We're going to go ahead, market's closed right now, so this order will be good for tomorrow. But we're going to hit confirm and send. And just remember, you know, just double check your number. 61.25 looks good. 4 shares. We're buying about $245 worth of the stock. Our stop order set to $50.34. There's no guarantee we're going to get filled at that price. That's just going to trigger a market order, and it could be filled significantly lower. And then if we have a 2 green arrow group like we do, we're going to send that order off. Okay. So there's that. So that was BKR. I think we had EQT was another one in there. Now EQT, question for you guys, is this a valid buy signal? Okay, I went through those kind of checklist items just a minute ago, but it's important that you get this, so just listen. Okay, the first question we asked, let me zoom in. Is the moving average rising? Nope. It's flat at best and maybe down a little bit. So guess what? We're done with our analysis. Doesn't matter that there's a green arrow. Doesn't matter the price is above. It's not rising. The trend is not up. Trend's kind of sideways and flat right now. So this is not a buy signal. Done. Okay, what was the other one in this group? We had one more. WMB. All right. Questions. Right? Is the moving average rising? Check. Is the price above the moving average? Check. Is the MACD green? Sorry. Yes. Now, how long is the MACD green arrow good? Well, the green arrow is green until it turns red. We've kind of given some parameters that we try to buy on the first day, second day that MACD turns green, but sometimes, you know, maybe we didn't get a chance to run our search today and it was next day or 2 days later. So we're going to say that this is still a valid buy signal. Yeah, we're going to pay a little bit more today and we're going to risk a little bit more per share. So that's going to force us to buy fewer shares. But let's go through that process again with this one, and then we'll probably have time to do one more example trade. All right. So how do I buy this? Right click, buy custom with stop. All right. My stop order is going to be 1% below that moving average. That's just our rule. No recommendation. That's just our rule that we've done for our sample plan. Stops at 61.77. How do I know that? Well, if you look right over here, right underneath studies, when I have my cursor on that chart, it says 61.77. So we're going to put 61.77 here. Let's put 71.12 for our purchase. That's the closing price over here. Top left. 61.77. And we're risking about $10 a share. So we could buy probably about 5 shares of this. Let's bump that up to 5. We're going to lock that link together. And then what do? Well, good till canceled here. Good till canceled since the market's closed. Confirm and send. We have our purchase order. We have our buying power effect. That's where we want to make sure this number is below 500. We have a stop order at 61.77. Again, no guarantee to get filled there. Put it in our group. Send that order off for tomorrow. All right. Now, I am out of time. So what I want you to do is I had you write down those symbols from our scans, right? And again, our objective today was to, search or scan for buy signals in the strongest performing sectors. I showed you how to load up those, that 3-month performance or 3-month percent change so you can sort and identify which sectors are the strongest. I showed you how to run that scan in our live demo account side where that's the only place these studies will work. So you have to do those kind of in both of them, is put those in there. Showed you how to change the different industries or sectors you want to scan in. We had you write down some symbols. So for homework, what I'd like to have you do is, just pull up in your paper money account, pull up those different symbols I had you write down, go through that checklist. Is the moving average rising? Is the price above the moving average? And is the MACD green within the last couple of days? The answer to that's yes. Then that's a valid paper money trade signal. All right. And just practice that. And then, if you want to go back and watch lessons 1 through 8, you'll see how to manage those positions a little bit more, how to adjust the stops and so on, do those things that we did. And again, I know the survey's there in the link. Really appreciate it if you would take a few minutes just to type in what you liked. If there's something you didn't like, let me know that so I don't do those again. But, what are your struggles? That was one of the things that I wish somebody helped me with when I first got going, is like, dang, if I could overcome this, that would be great. And so, share those things with me. Thanks to everybody that's been here today. Cameron, thanks to you. Again, please subscribe to our channel and maybe give us a thumbs up there if you liked what we covered today. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.